Hello, I'm Tony Ingram. Welcome to Walk in the Park. And this is episode is, here we go. Let me get myself back to where I was before. Yeah, that's better. Episode 27 on November 7th. So if you're watching this at another time, you know when this was recorded. Okay, so just to show you when this is recorded, I had a little video I made up for to actually run on the television from time to time. That well, I made it up myself. That will show you right now. Okay, so I'm going to put up our screen here. We'll go to the little video. It'll take a moment. Hi, I'm Tony Ingram, and I invite you to join me in my show, Walk in the Park, on Ithaca's public access cable TV, Channel 13. We go to state parks like Buttermilk Falls, Robert Treeman, Teganic Falls, Fillmore Glen, Watkins Glen, and to local parks like Havana Glen, Stewart Park, 6 Mile Creek Preserve, and to places like Finger Lakes Land Trust Preserves and Cornell Plantations Preserves. We go to parks in and around Ithaca, the Finger Lakes region, New York State, and beyond. So join me each week for Walk in the Park. Okay, so there's the schedule. Thursdays at 9, Saturday and Sunday at 10:30 in the morning, and Tuesday at 8. That's when each new show runs. And it's also run a lot of other times, so if you're flipping channels, you might run across another Walk in the Park episode, and if you, at the end of an hour or the end of a half an hour, usually right, you know, for a minute or so, then they put the schedule up on the screen. You can see what all the different programs on Pegasus Public Access Channel 13 are going. But today, I'm going to take a look at the effects of Hurricane Sandy, Superstorm Sandy, on parks. And first we'll just go to the local area. Of course, we know around here we really didn't have a hurricane-like experience. We had a lot of rain, we had some wind and so forth, but nothing really out of the ordinary. We'll go over to Buttermilk Falls. I showed some of this last week. This is Bill Hecht's local photographer's aerial photo of Buttermilk Falls State Park from looking over Inlet Valley. And you can see the two gorges in there. And on the right-hand side, that's actually Buttermilk Falls down there at the bottom now. And this is what it looked like during the so-called hurricane. Now, a little over a year ago, in early September, we had Tropical Storm Lee come through, and that did do a lot of damage. That followed on the heels of, in August, Hurricane Irene, which soaked the ground, and then when Lee came along and dumped 4 or 5 inches of rain on us, and much more rain farther south, down along the Susquehanna River, Owego, Binghamton, that sort of place, down in Pennsylvania, maybe 2 or 3 times as much rain. They had serious damage. We got very full creeks, and like Buttermilk Falls here was really roaring on September 7th and 8th, and it didn't do that much damage. It did do a little bit of damage to trails, and this storm we had really didn't do anything. The trails stayed open. The Superstorm Sandy. So actually, right now, they are still repairing some of the damage along the Gorge Trail at Buttermilk Falls. This is the Mason's materials here in the Upper Gorge Trail, repairing the damage from Tropical Storm Lee more than a year ago. And then the Upper Robert H. Treeman State Park in the Upper Enfield Glen Gorge area there, it was closed off last fall, winter, and spring. You couldn't go through there because a staircase had been ripped out by the high water. Not terrible damage compared to what we've had some other years, but enough to keep the trail closed until almost to the summer, as the mason was working very hard to get that open. So, but of course we know in other areas that Hurricane Sandy along the coast and a little ways inland from there, some other parks and trails and so forth were heavily hit. Like this is down in the lower Hudson. This is a photograph from the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. which is a really active organization. I think I was a member of it when I lived downstate when I was young. And they have they were out before Hurricane Sandy putting these lines on their bridges across streams along some of their trails in the Hudson Valley area and some of the parks and so forth. There's lots and lots of trails there. And I didn't see what happened afterwards, but I know they put a lot of effort into that. And a lot of the trails were closed in the Hudson Valley during the storm. I think I've got some information here from it somewhere from the state parks. Like Tallman Mountain, which is along the Hudson, just north of Tappan Zee Bridge, Stony Point Historic Site, Rockland Lake Golf Course, and a number of other. And for a while, parks were closed all over. And the Catskills, the Department of Environmental Conservation, which manages the Catskills, warned people to stay off trails while the storm was coming through. But it wasn't anything like what people experienced down along the coast. These are from some folks out in the middle of the storm in New Jersey, and the parks along there took it really heavy. And here's some coastal damage here along in Seaside Heights in the Jersey Shore. And this is the town of Seaside Heights. It's a pretty sad event right there. Look at the terrible damage that just got washed over. These coastal barrier beaches, these barrier islands that run all up and down the East Coast. In the Northeast, they took a terrible hit. So this is Seaside Heights, Seaside Park area, where there's the boardwalk and all kinds of fun. I was there a few years ago with my family. This is what it looked like, and it was the Funtown Pier, and with the roller coaster and the Ferris wheel. Well, that's what Funtown Pier looks like now. Very sad. We went out to Island Beach State Park, and it's a lovely place. It's about 10 miles of mostly wild beaches, and they do have swimming area, and they do have, I can't remember whether they have some boardwalk or not, but it was very lovely. On the bay side of the island, we did some environmental education activities. There's a park naturalist there. We're doing some seining, see what kind of fish and small organisms we can collect in the bay, and then we look at them and then put them back. So, it's very sad. We spent, that was a lovely place, and it's very sad to see that kind of damage to people's lives there in their homes. And in fact, I've got, in honor of Island Beach State Park and Seaside Heights, I have put on the hat that I bought when I was visiting there, Island Beach State Park, New Jersey, and I wish those folks the best. I hope they can recover from that storm. I'm sure they had plenty of damage to the park, and it's hard to even find pictures of the damage to the state parks because I guess they're too busy out there dealing with it. So, of course, along Long Island, it took a terrible hit along the barrier beaches, and here's a picture in Queens at Rockaway Beach. So this is a park, and look at those waves of Hurricane Sandy come smashing in. And Long Beach, a little farther east, but west of Jones Beach. I think it's in Nassau County. Look how things are swamped in there. Some more damage. These people really had their lives turned upside down. And you might think, well, these are summer homes and so forth. They're not people's homes, but a lot of them are, especially a place like Long Beach. And a lot of the people that make their living on the summer visitors and so forth, they live there and they have their businesses, and they got smashed, and they're not rich people. And some more damage here. This guy's got a big problem in front of him. Tremendous amount of material smashed, and people lost the contents of their homes and so forth, and are throwing those out. And I'm going to go to, let's see, we'll take a look at that picture again here, but I want to read you something. This was posted by Christine Uribe, who's works as the office manager at Watkins Glen State Park, and she's a friend of mine, and when I worked for the state parks, I got to know her there. And she posted this on Facebook. She is down there. She went down there, I think, with the Red Cross, and is helping out. Thankfully, with the support of the State Parks Agency, giving her some release time with pay to go down and help with this disaster. So here's what she wrote on Facebook, I think it was on Monday. Yes, it was Monday, November 5th. Just a quickie before going to bed, as we have a long day tomorrow. Took a 22-foot box truck to Long Beach today, filled with food and blankets. I started bawling my eyes out when I saw the first boat lying on the highway, and it just got worse. The devastation was indescribable. I couldn't get myself to take one picture. My partner and I took turns crying all day because one of us had to be the rock. When dark came and we were empty, we both just lost it. I'm still tearing just thinking about it. The door with a spray-painted message advising Katie was MIA. The little boy who was left alone at home while his dad went to find food. Front loaders stopping traffic while dumping kitchen appliances into a tractor trailer. I'll never be the same after this, and now I have a hint of what our vets and emergency service personnel go through. Thank all that donate their lives to helping others. Keep the faith, everyone. So really are thankful for Christine and her heroic effort and amazingly generous spirit to go down there and work hard to help people and try to recover. Here's a picture of a Red Cross truck on a food line. People coming to get food. And then the final image from Long Beach is lifting up debris there with that big grabber there, and there's a boy there with a fireman's hat on, looks like, and an American flag on a pole. So quite a emotional scene down there along the coast of Long Island and New Jersey, and we wish them all the best, and anything you can do to help the Red Cross to help out these people would be really a good idea. So now we're going to go over to one of the state parks. We'll go to Jones Beach. Now this is just a normal Jones Beach picture of the central tower. This is actually a water tower. It was built back in the Depression, I think. I worked at Jones Beach when I was in high school. I lived on Long Island. And so this is sort of the central part of the park. It's the barrier island. And then this is a helicopter view of the park when the storm was hitting. And I guess a lot of areas are flooded. It's not easy to tell, but it was being battered. And state park personnel, and maybe even the governor might have been there. But the park really took a hit. Here's a boardwalk here that got smashed. And I'm going to read a little bit about that from the state parks. Well, actually, this is from CBS News, but it's reporting from the state parks. Superstorm Sandy has substantially damaged historic Jones Beach State Park and swamped a beach at nearby Robert Moses State Park deep under roiling seawater. Sandy wreaked substantial widespread damage on the Jones Beach Park, where the administration building remained flooded Wednesday, so this would have been like Halloween they're talking about. Many of the beach boardwalks were heaved upwards, so that's what that picture is about, I believe. Heaved upward, and the beach at Field 6 was eroded to the boardwalk, Governor Andrew Cuomo's office said. Words like devastated, catastrophic come to mind, said George Gorman, Deputy Regional Director of State Parks in Long Island. He said that the entire beachfront at Robert Moses State Park in Babylon, about 15 miles east of Jones Beach, eroded to the point that it was washed out. Let's see if we can find a picture of, well, let's see. Here's actually the beach normally at Robert Moses State Park. I took this a few years ago, and it was down there. But now this is what it looks like now. That's actually the lighthouse in Fire Island. We'll get back to that in a minute, but that's the kind of scene there. The driving lanes, quote, fell into the Atlantic, he said there, right there at the bottom. I've been with state parks more than 30 years, Gorman said. This is the most damage I've ever seen. So Jones Beach will be closed until further notice, and they may have to replace the boardwalk and are still assessing the damage. So quite a few, many parks on Long Island were closed. Some of them are opening about now, I think on November 9th. But Jones Beach, Robert Moses, Sunken Meadow, Bayard Cutting Arboretum, Caleb Smith, Captree, Calmset, Connequot, Heckscher, Planting Fields, Orient Beach, Valley Stream, Wildwood, they're all closed, and some of them are reopening. So rough time along the coast here. And All right, so I went to Fire Island here. Let's see, I've got Fire Island up. This is Robert Moses, but it's right on the edge of Fire Island. If you see that lighthouse there, actually Robert Moses State Park is at the western end of Fire Island, which is the next barrier beach down from the park, the island that Jones Beach is on. So this is looking again at the beach erosion and debris. And one of the amazing things was this storm cut a new cut through the island into the Great South Bay behind it. Now that's Long Island in the very background at the top, but and then the Great South Bay, and then there's the barrier island of Fire Island, National Seashore, and the storm cut, I think, 2 new cuts into the through the island to the bay, and I believe they're going to try to fill those. There's a number of communities along Fire Island that took very heavy hits. You can see some of the damage here. So quite a mess there. People got cut off from communication and transportation, and many people were evacuated, but some stayed. There's some damage to some beachfront structures. A lot of damage to the beach and dunes. A lot of debris. So it was all along those coastal barrier islands. Things are pretty bad. So very sad. Oh, I should change my hat here in honor of the Fire Island and their struggles. I have another hat. Let's see if I get the right one here. Yeah, here we go. This is Fire Island Lighthouse. For one time I was there. So the lighthouse is okay. There's a big dune in front of it, although the dunes have been highly compromised. In some places, dunes are gone. But as the storm swept over the island. But so wherever I can buy a baseball cap about a park, I try to, and if it's relevant, I'll wear it here. So now, of course, we know this was a superstorm that was also mixed with a nor'easter, and when you get up in the mountains, it to the west of New Jersey and Virginia and so forth, West Virginia, you got into snow because there was this cold front coming down that was actually creating the nor'easter. So this is West Virginia, and lots of trees down. They had higher up you went in elevation, the more snow. I think they got, well, here's some snow they got in West Virginia. So you know that did a lot of damage to trees and so forth. But we're going to go to a couple of national parks now and see what they did. It wasn't quite as damaging, I think, to the national parks like Shenandoah in Virginia. They got up to about a foot, and they put these pictures up on their Facebook page. But they weren't too feeling bad about it. They just thought it was rather novel. And here they're clearing snow from the area, the entrance to the Skyline Drive. And there's an area called Skyland, which has a nice lodge and cabin area and so forth up near Stony Man Mountain, which is one of my favorite spots in the park. And they had the most snow, about a foot of snow. So amazingly, this hurricane created snow mixed with a nor'easter. So that's pretty unusual. Here's the Appalachian Trail in snow on Hurricane Sandy. Very, very unusual sort of thing. Of course, there's a lot of discussion about just why this happened, the size of this storm, the power of this storm, and there's general agreement that global warming in a number of different ways has contributed to make this storm an unusually bad one, and including the fact that the ocean, the mid-Atlantic, is in general about 4 or 5 degrees warmer in places, up to 6 degrees warmer, and that makes storms last longer as hurricanes as they go north, feeds energy to them, and of course they crossed the Gulf Stream and picked up energy there. So that's one of the reasons we're seeing bigger storms along the Atlantic coast. But let's go to North Carolina. This is down along the Carolina border, probably up in the Blue Ridge Mountains or something, and there they've got some amazing snow. And go over to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Now, I think this is viewed actually from the Tennessee side, around Gatlinburg, Tennessee, looking up to the mountains. So here they still have fall colors in the bottom, but look at the snow in the mountains up there. And you get up on the top in an area called Clingman's Dome, which is the highest mountain in Smoky Mountains National Park. And Smoky Mountains National Park, Great Smoky Mountains National Park, straddles the border of Tennessee and North Carolina. and it's the highest point along there, 6,642 feet or something like that. It's actually the third highest summit in eastern North America. The other two are in North Carolina as well. The highest is Mount Mitchell in the nearby Black Mountains. So here's some of the snow up there. They got about 3-4 feet of snow up there. And interestingly, oh, here's you drive from the Newfound Gap Road to the road that goes into this tower on top of Clingman's Dome, and you can walk up to the top of the tower and get this great view. And look at the feather-like snow along that railing, that with the winds and mist and so forth, sometimes it creates this stuff that's what they call hoarfrost. I'm not sure if that's exactly what it is here, but you get mist that sublimates onto structures. You get that along Cayuga Lake sometimes. So I'm going to go back now to Fire Island, and I'm going to play you, kind of jumped over this before. Okay, that ominous picture there. I'm going to play you a little video that I made a few years ago in winter, actually on Christmas Day. I took this video, and I think you'll find it interesting. So we'll bring that up here in a second.
We moved to the western end of Fire Island, New York on Christmas Day 2009. Fire Island is one of several long barrier islands created by ocean currents that run parallel to the south shore of Long Island. That same week, a heavy blizzard dropped 2 feet of snow. The western end of Fire Island is Robert Moses State Park. Much of the rest of the island comprises Fire Island and National Seashore. At this latitude, the ocean does not freeze in winter. Seawater freezes at a lower temperature than freshwater, normally around -2 degrees centigrade or 28.4 degrees Fahrenheit. The turbulence of the water caused by wind and currents prevent the water temperature from dropping sufficiently or allowing enough stability for ice crystals to form. In summer, the sea absorbs heat from the sun. It radiates that heat in the winter, moderating the climate of Long Island and other areas along the coast. Ducks and other water birds float and feed on the ocean. Some may have come from inland lakes where they breed in summer. Walt Whitman was one of 19th century America's most celebrated poets, and he lived on Long Island. In this quote from his most famous work, Leaves of Grass, he refers to Paumanok, which is the native name for Long Island.
As I ebbed with the ocean of life, as I wended the shores I know, as I walked where the ripples continually wash you, Paumanok, where they rustle up, hoarse and sibilant, where the fierce old mother endlessly cries for her castaways, I, musing late in the autumn day, gazing off southward, held by this electric self out of the pride of which I utter poems, was seized by the spirit that trails in the lines underfoot, the rim, the sediment that stands for all the water and all the land of the globe, Fascinated, my eyes reverting from the south dropped to follow those slender windrows, chaff, straw, splinters of wood, weeds and the sea gluten, scum, scales from shining rocks, leaves of salt lettuce left by the tide. Miles walking, the sound of breaking waves the other side of me, Paumanok there and then as I brought the old thought of likenesses. These you presented to me, you fish-shaped island, as I wended the shores I know, as I walked with that electric self, seeking types. As I wend to the shores I know not, as I list to the dirge, the voices of men and women wrecked, as I inhale the impalpable breezes that set in upon me, as the ocean, so mysterious, rolls toward me closer and closer, I, too, but signify at the utmost a little washed-up drift, a few sands and dead leaves to gather, and merge myself as part of the sands and drift.
At the ocean, one is connected to all the oceans of the world. In the words of Whitman once more,
I see huge, dreadful Arctic and Antarctic icebergs. I see the superior oceans and the inferior ones, the Atlantic and Pacific, the Sea of Mexico, the Brazilian Sea and the Sea of Peru, the waters of Hindustan, the China Sea and the Gulf of Guinea, the Japan waters, the beautiful Bay of Nagasaki landlocked in its mountains, the spread of the Baltic, Caspian, Bothnia, the British shores, and the Bay of Biscay, the clear-sunned Mediterranean, and from one to another of its islands, the White Sea and the sea around Greenland.
Greenland in the Arctic, Antarctica at the other pole. They are covered with prehistoric glaciers that are now melting at an alarming rate due to human-caused global warming. Scientists warn that if the ice on Greenland alone melts, the oceans of the world could rise 20 feet. That would put places like Fire Island and much of Long Island underwater.
Okay. Well, we're running down out of time, so I want to thank you all for joining me today, and we'll be back next week with another show. Actually, next week we're going to have a variety of shows, different episodes playing. So we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.